The ship came down through the clouds like a dark blade cutting through white cloth. It was a cruiser, built for speed and silence, and it carried only one passenger. His name was, and he was a hunter. Not a hunter of animals or beasts, but a hunter of thinking creatures. A hunter of people. Stood 7 feet tall. His body was covered in thick green scales that had turned dark with age. Across his chest and arms, he carried the ritual scars of 43 successful hunts. Each scar told a story. Each scar meant a life taken. He had hunted across 12 star systems and killed creatures that most beings only heard about in nightmares. Among his own people, he was considered a legend, a perfect killer. The planet below him was called Meridian 4. It was a human colony world, far from Earth and far from the center of human civilization. The settlement he was heading toward was called New Haven, and according to his information, it held about 3,000 people, farmers mostly, some miners, a few traders who passed through on their way to other worlds. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. Had never hunted humans before. They were a new species to him. His empire existed on the opposite side of the galaxy, and humans had only recently begun spreading among the stars. But he had read the reports about them. He had studied their biology and their history. He knew what they were. They were soft. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor on their skin. They needed to breathe a very specific mixture of gases or they would die. They needed to drink water every few days or they would die. They needed to sleep for 8 hours out of every 24 or their minds would start to break down. They were slow compared to most species. They were weak compared to most species. They lived short lives and spent most of those lives doing nothing of importance. By every measure used to judge prey, humans were perfect targets. Easy, simple. He expected this hunt to be quick. His ship landed at the edge of New Haven just as the sun was setting. The sky turned orange and red, and long shadows stretched across the dusty ground. Stepped out of his vessel and took his first breath of human air. It was thin and dry, but acceptable. He could survive here long enough to complete his work. He expected the humans to run when they saw him. Every other species did. When they saw a hunter, they screamed and scattered like insects. When the Oseans saw one, they burrowed into the ground and hid for days. Even the mighty warriors who stood 8 feet tall and had 4 arms showed fear when they faced his kind. But the humans did not run. They watched him. Walk down the main road of New Haven, his hunting spear in his hand and his trophy necklace hanging around his neck. The humans came out of their homes and stood in doorways. They leaned against fences and sat on porches. They looked at him with expressions he could not read. Some of them pointed. A few of them talked quietly to each other. One of them, a small child with yellow hair, actually laughed. This was wrong. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Pushed the thought aside and continued walking. He needed to announce himself. That was the tradition. A hunter always announced himself to his prey before the hunt began. It was a matter of honor. He found a tavern near the center of town. It was a simple wooden building with a sign above the door that read "The Dusty Boot." Light and noise came from inside. Pushed through the swinging doors and stepped into the room. The tavern was half full. About 20 humans sat at tables or stood at the bar. They were drinking and talking and playing some kind of game with small paper cards. When entered, they all stopped and looked at him. The room went silent. This was better. This was the reaction he expected. Walked to the center of the room and raised his spear above his head. He spoke in the human language, which he had learned during his journey here. I am of the Empire. I am a hunter of sentient beings. I have killed the fiercest creatures in the known galaxy, and I have come to this world to claim trophies from your kind. I give you this warning as a matter of honor. The hunt begins at dawn. He waited for the screaming. He waited for the panic. He waited for the humans to run. Instead, someone at the bar turned around on her stool. She was a woman, small and lean, with short dark hair and skin that had been browned by years of sun. Her hands were rough and calloused. wrapped around a glass of amber liquid. She wore simple clothes, the kind that workers wore, and there was nothing special about her at all. She looked like any other human in the room. But her eyes were different. Her eyes were brown and steady, and they held no fear at all, not even a little bit. She looked at the way a person might look at a strange animal that had wandered into their home, curious, maybe a little amused, but not afraid. "You hunt humans?" she asked. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "I do," replied. He lowered his spear and stood tall, displaying his full height and the scars across his body. "I have hunted the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. I have never failed. Humans are merely my latest quarry." The woman took a slow sip of her drink. She set the glass down on the bar and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Then she asked him a question. It was a simple question, just 7 words, but those 7 words would change everything. "Have you ever actually met one of us before?" Opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. The question hung in the air between them, heavy and sharp. All around the tavern, the other humans were watching, waiting. Some of them were smiling now, small smiles that did not reach their eyes. The woman slid off her stool and stood facing him. She was barely half his height. She had no weapons. She had no armor. She had nothing but that calm, steady look in her brown eyes. "My name is Kate," she said, "and I think you and I need to have a conversation." Did not answer right away. The question was simple, but it cut deeper than he expected. Had he ever actually met a human before? He thought about it carefully, searching through his memories, and he found nothing. He had read reports. He had watched recordings. He had studied charts and diagrams and biological data, but he had never stood in front of a living human until this moment. "What does it matter?" he finally said. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "I have studied your kind. I know your weaknesses. I know how to kill you." Kate did not move. She stood there in the middle of the tavern, small and unarmed, looking up at a creature twice her size who had just announced his intention to hunt her people. And she smiled. "You know our weaknesses," she repeated. "Tell me about them. Tell me what your reports said about humans." Felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was uncertainty. He had not felt uncertain in over 100 years. "Your bodies are fragile," he said. "You have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. You require specific conditions to survive. You are slow. You are weak. You sleep for a third of your lives, leaving yourselves completely helpless. You are perfect prey." Kate nodded slowly, as if he had said something interesting. "Is that all?" she asked. "That is enough." "No," Kate said, "it really is not." She took a step toward him and found himself taking a step back. He did not understand why. She was no threat to him. She could not be a threat to him. And yet his body moved on its own, retreating from this small, soft creature. "Let me tell you some things about humans," Kate said. "Things that were probably not in your reports. Things you need to understand before you make a very big mistake." Behind the bar, a heavy man named Tony began quietly moving bottles and glasses to a safer location. He had seen Kate talk like this before. He knew what was coming. "The first thing you should know," Kate said, "is that we used to hunt each other. For most of our history, the most dangerous thing on our planet was another human. We killed each other over land, over food, over ideas, over things that did not even exist. We got very good at it." Secondary eyelids flickered. This was an involuntary response among his kind, a sign of confusion or doubt. He could not stop it. "The second thing you should know," Kate continued, "is that we invented war, not fighting. All species fight, but war is different. War is organized killing on a massive scale. We built weapons that could kill 100 people at once, and then we built weapons that could kill 1,000, and then we built weapons that could kill 1,000,000. We created bombs that could turn entire cities into ash in less than a second. We did this to ourselves. We did this to each other, and we are still here." She took another step forward, took another step back. The third thing you should know is about something called persistence hunting. Your reports probably said that humans are slow, and compared to some animals we are. We cannot outrun a deer or a horse or a wolf, but we do not need to. Our ancestors learned that they did not need to be faster than their prey, they just needed to keep going. They would chase an animal for hours, sometimes for days. They would walk and jog and walk again, following the tracks, never stopping, never resting. And eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion, because it could not cool its body the way humans can. It would fall down, unable to move, and our ancestors would walk up to it and kill it. We are one of the only species in the galaxy that can run ourselves to the edge of death and just keep going through pure willpower. The tavern was completely silent now. Every human in the room was watching and noticed that none of them looked afraid. They looked interested. Some of them looked proud. The fourth thing you should know, Kate said, is about our pack bonding. Humans form emotional connections with almost anything. We will love our families, our friends, our pets, our tools, even our enemies sometimes. And when something threatens the things we love, we become something else entirely. We become capable of things that would surprise you. Parents have lifted vehicles off their children. Soldiers have fought through injuries that should have killed them 10 times over. Ordinary people have done extraordinary things, terrible things, wonderful things, all because someone they cared about was in danger. Kate stopped walking. She was standing directly in front of Now, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at his face. And the fifth thing you should know, she said, her voice dropping lower, is that we are not afraid of death. We know we are going to die, we have always known. Our lives are short compared to most species, and we spend those lives knowing that they will end. This should make us careful, this should make us cautious. But it does not. It makes us dangerous. It makes us willing to take risks that other species would never consider. It makes us capable of sacrifice. We will walk into certain death if we believe the cause is worth it. We will burn ourselves up like stars if we think it will light the way for others. Realized that he had backed all the way to the door of the tavern. His spear was still in his hand, but it felt useless somehow. Like a toy. Like something a child would carry. Your reports told you that humans are weak, Kate said. Your reports told you that we are easy prey, but your reports were wrong. We are not prey at all. We are something that your galaxy has never seen before. We are creatures who looked at the natural order of things, at the food chain, at the idea that the strong eat the weak, and that is just how it works, and we said no. We said we refuse, and then we proved it. We climbed to the top of our food chain, not because we were the strongest or the fastest or the most deadly, but because we refused to accept any other outcome. She reached out and tapped one finger against the trophy necklace hanging around his neck. Those things you are wearing, she said, those teeth and bones, they belong to creatures who probably felt the same way you do right now. They probably thought they were the hunters too. Looked down at his necklace. For the first time in 200 years, he felt the weight of it. I have never failed a hunt, he said, but his voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. Kate tilted her head to the side and smiled again. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost kind. There is a first time for everything, she said. Would you like to sit down and have a drink? I think we have a lot more to talk about. Did not leave the tavern that night. He sat down at a table in the corner, his massive body barely fitting in the wooden chair, and Kate sat across from him. Tony, the bartender, brought them drinks, a glass of whiskey for Kate and a cup of water for the alien who did not know what else to order. The other humans in the tavern did not return to their normal activities. They gathered around, pulling up chairs and standing along the walls, and they began to talk. They told stories. Not to frighten him, Kate explained, but to help him understand. A young man named Fuller spoke first. He was lean and quiet, with the kind of eyes that noticed everything. He worked as a tracker for the colony, finding lost settlers and mapping the dangerous wilderness beyond the town walls. My grandmother grew up on Earth, said, in a place called Montana, Big open country with mountains and forests and animals that would kill you if you gave them the chance. There were these big cats called mountain lions, about this long. He held his hands apart to show the size. Maybe 200 pounds of muscle and claws and teeth. They would come down from the mountains and kill livestock. Sometimes they would kill people, children especially. Listened carefully. He knew about predators, he understood them. My grandmother hunted those cats, continued. She would go into the mountains alone with a rifle and a pack of supplies, and she would track them for days at a time. She learned how they moved, how they thought, where they slept, and where they hunted. And when she found them, she killed them, not because she was stronger than them. She was not because she was faster. She was not that either. She killed them because she refused to let them win. She hunted mountain lions until she was 73 years old. The last one she killed had been terrorizing a valley for 6 months. No one else could find it. She found it in 2 weeks. An older woman stepped forward next. Her name was Tors, and she ran the small medical clinic in New Haven. Her hair was gray and her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp. I was a soldier once, said. A long time ago back on Earth. There was a war, one of the last big ones before we reached the stars. I served in the Pacific Theater. You do not know what that means, but it was bad. Hot jungles full of insects and diseases. Swamps that would swallow you whole. Creatures in the water that would take your leg off if you stepped wrong. She rolled up her sleeve and showed a long scar that ran from her wrist to her elbow. I got this from a piece of shrapnel on my 3rd day in the jungle. The medic stitched it up with fishing line because we did not have proper supplies. I kept fighting for 6 more months with an arm that never healed right. So did everyone else. We were hungry. We were sick. We were scared all the time, but we did not stop. We could not stop. We had people back home who were counting on us. More stories came after that. A farmer named Dan Mercer talked about the time his harvester broke down in the middle of a dust storm, and he walked 18 miles back to town through wind that could strip skin from bone. A woman named Lisa Park described how her colony ship had lost power during the journey from Earth, and the passengers had spent 3 weeks in darkness and cold, rationing their air and water, keeping each other alive through sheer determination until rescue arrived. A teenage boy named Jake talked about his father, who had died fighting off a pack of native predators so that his family could escape to safety. Listen to all of it. With each story, something inside him shifted. The picture he had built in his mind of what humans were, that image of soft and fragile prey, was breaking apart. In its place, something else was forming, something he did not have a name for yet. You understand what we are telling you, Kate said after the last story had been shared. It was not a question. I am beginning to, admitted. Good, Kate leaned forward across the table. Because there is something else you need to know, something even more important than all of this. She waited until she had his full attention. We do not want to hurt you, she said. We saw your ship come down, we watched you walk through our town, we heard your announcement. And not once, not for a single second, did any of us feel afraid. Do you know why? Shook his head slowly. Because we have seen worse than you, Kate said. We have survived worse than you. You came here thinking you were the predator and we were the prey, but that is not how it works with humans. We do not see ourselves as prey. We do not act like prey. We do not think like prey. When something threatens us, we do not run and hide and hope it goes away. We face it. We study it. We figure out how to beat it, and then we beat it. She sat back in her chair and took a long drink of her whiskey. You announced that your hunt would begin at dawn. It is almost dawn now. So let me tell you what is going to happen. You are going to walk out of this tavern, and you are going to look around this town, and you are going to see 3,000 people who know exactly what you came here to do. And not one of them is going to run. Not one of them is going to hide. Every single person in New Haven is going to go about their day exactly as they always do, because that is what humans do. We do not change our lives for threats. We do not bend. We do not break. The first light of dawn was beginning to show through the tavern windows. Orange and pink light spilled across the wooden floor. "You can start your hunt if you want to," Kate said. "But I promise you this. It will not end the way you expect. It will not end with trophies and glory and ritual scars. It will end with you learning a lesson that every predator eventually learns when they come for humans." "What lesson is that?" asked. Kate smiled that strange, calm smile again. "That we are not the kind of creature you think we are. That all your power and all your skill and all your experience mean nothing when you are facing something that simply refuses to lose. That the most dangerous thing in this galaxy is not claws or teeth or venom or size. It is will. It is the absolute refusal to give up, no matter what. And nobody in the universe has more of that than humans." She stood up from the table and stretched her arms above her head. "So what is it going to be, Hunter? Are you going to start your hunt, or are you going to stay a while and learn what we are really about?" Looked at her. He looked at the other humans gathered around the tavern, all of them watching him with those calm and steady eyes. He thought about his ship waiting at the edge of town. He thought about his people far away on the other side of the galaxy. He thought about his entire life, all 240 years of it, spent hunting and killing and proving his worth. And for the first time in all those years, he was not sure what to do next. Stayed. He did not make a conscious decision about it. He simply did not leave. When dawn came and his hunt was supposed to begin, he was still sitting in the tavern, thinking about everything he had heard. When the sun rose fully and the people of New Haven went about their morning routines, he watched them through the window with new eyes. When Kate offered him a room at the boarding house she ran on the edge of town, he accepted without really knowing why. That first day set the pattern for all the days that followed, became a strange fixture in New Haven. The 7-foot alien with green scales and ritual scars, walking through the dusty streets and watching everything with careful attention. The children stopped being afraid of him after the first week. They started following him around instead, asking questions about his home world and his ship, and whether he could breathe fire. He could not breathe fire, but he did not mind their company. Kate became his guide to human life. She took him to the farms outside of town and showed him how the colonists grew food in soil that had never known earth plants before. She took him to the mining operation in the hills and let him watch humans dig into rock and extract precious metals with machines that roared like living beasts. She took him to the school where children learned to read and write and calculate numbers. She took him to the medical clinic where Tors healed the sick and injured with tools and knowledge and stubborn refusal to let anyone die on her watch. He learned something new every day. Most of it terrified him. He learned that humans regularly consumed substances that would kill most other species. They ate food seasoned with something called capsaicin, a chemical that plants had evolved specifically to prevent animals from eating them. It burned the mouth and throat and made the eyes water, and humans ate it for pleasure. They said it made the food taste better. Tried a small amount at dinner one night and spent the next hour convinced that he was dying. Kate laughed so hard she nearly fell out of her chair. He learned that humans drank ethanol, poison, a toxin that killed brain cells and damaged internal organs. They drank it to relax. They drank it to celebrate. They drank it when they were sad and when they were happy, and sometimes for no reason at all. Tony at the tavern let try a small glass of whiskey, and the burning in his throat was almost as bad as the capsaicin. But he understood a little bit why humans liked it. There was something honest about a species that willingly poisoned itself for fun. He learned about human endurance. Fuller took him out into the wilderness one day, tracking a herd of native animals across rough terrain. After 4 hours was exhausted. His legs ached. His lungs burned. He wanted to stop and rest, but kept going, walking at a steady pace that never slowed, and realized with horror that the young man could probably keep this up for days. The reports had called humans weak. The reports had been written by fools. He learned about human memory. The colonists talked about Earth constantly. They talked about places they had left behind, people they would never see again, lives that existed now only in their minds. They carried their entire home world inside their heads, every detail preserved with painful clarity. and they used that memory to shape this new world, building farms and towns and communities that echoed what they had lost. Humans did not just adapt to new environments. They transformed those environments into reflections of their past. He learned about human loyalty. There was an old man in New Haven named Chris Baldwin whose wife was dying. She had a disease that the clinic could not cure, something that was slowly taking away her ability to walk and move and eventually breathe. Chris spent every moment he could at her side. He built ramps and handles and supports throughout their home so she could move around more easily. He carried her to the porch every evening so she could watch the sunset. He held her hand and talked to her, and told her stories about the life they had shared together. One night asked Kate why Chris did all of this. The woman was dying. Nothing could change that. Why did he waste his remaining time on someone who would soon be gone? Kate looked at him for a long moment before answering. Because that is what love is, she said. It is not about what makes sense. It is not about what is practical or efficient or logical. Love is choosing to give everything you have to someone, even when you know you will lose them. It is deciding that another person matters more than yourself, more than your comfort, more than your future. Humans do not love because it is smart. We love because we cannot imagine living any other way. Thought about his own people. Did not love. They formed alliances and breeding partnerships and political connections. They measured value in terms of strength and status and success. The idea of dedicating yourself completely to another person, knowing that you would gain nothing from it, was foreign to him. It should have seemed foolish. But watching Chris Baldwin carry his wife to the porch each evening, watching the way she smiled at him even as her body failed, watching the way he smiled back as if she was the most precious thing in the universe, began to understand why humans had survived everything the galaxy had thrown at them. They were not stronger than other species. They were not smarter or faster or more deadly. But they had something that people did not have. They had a reason to keep fighting that went beyond survival. They had love and loyalty and connection. They had each other. 2 months passed, then 3. The ship sat untouched at the edge of town, waiting for a departure that never came. His hunting spear gathered dust in the corner of his room at Kate's boarding house. His trophy necklace stayed around his neck, but he found himself touching it more and more often, feeling the weight of it, thinking about what it represented. One evening, Kate found him sitting on the porch of the boarding house, staring up at the stars. She sat down next to him without saying anything. They watched the sky together in silence for a while. "I was wrong about your people," finally said. "I know," Kate replied. "I thought I was coming here to hunt. I thought I would take trophies and return home with another set of scars to show my clan. I thought it would be easy. And now," was quiet for a long moment. "Now I think I was the one being hunted," he said. "From the moment I landed, you were hunting me, all of you, not to kill me, to change me, to make me see something I had never seen before." Kate smiled that calm smile of hers. "We were not hunting you," she said. "We were just showing you who we are. What you do with that knowledge is up to you." She stood up and stretched, preparing to go back inside. "There is a town meeting tomorrow morning," she said. "Everyone in New Haven will be there. I think you should come. I think you are ready to see something important." She went inside before he could ask what she meant, stayed on the porch, watching the stars wheel overhead, and wondered what kind of creature he was becoming. The town meeting was held in the largest building in New Haven, a structure that served as a community hall, a courthouse, and a gathering place for important events. When arrived, the hall was already full. 3,000 people packed into the space, standing along the walls and sitting in every available chair. Children sat on their parents' shoulders. Old people leaned on canes and walkers. Everyone was there. They had come because Kate had asked them to, and they had come because of him. Stood at the back of the hall, uncertain whether he should move closer. He was still the outsider here, the alien who had arrived with murderous intentions, the hunter who had threatened to take trophies from their people. He did not belong among them. He was not sure he ever would. But then the crowd parted, and Kate appeared, walking toward him with that calm confidence she always carried. She took his arm without hesitation. "Come on," she said. "You need to be at the front for this." She led him through the crowd. People moved aside to let them pass and waited for the hostility he was sure he deserved. These were the people he had come to hunt. These were the people whose children he had threatened, whose lives he had dismissed as worthless. They should hate him. They should fear him. They should want him gone. But that was not what he saw in their faces. He saw curiosity. He saw interest. Some of them even smiled at him as he passed. A few reached out to touch his arm or pat his shoulder, brief gestures of welcome that made no sense to him at all. When he reached the front of the hall, Kate released his arm and stepped aside. Found himself facing the entire population of New Haven, thousands of human eyes watching him, waiting for something. He did not know what they expected. He did not know what he was supposed to say or do. He only knew that something inside him had changed over these past months, something fundamental, and he could not pretend it had not happened. So he spoke. "Among my people," he began, his voice rough and uncertain, "a hunter who fails to complete his hunt is considered dead. He cannot return home. He has no family, no clan, no name. He becomes a ghost, forever shamed, forever alone. The hunt is everything to us. It defines who we are. It gives our lives meaning." The crowd listened in silence. Somewhere near the middle of the hall, a baby made a soft sound, and its mother gently rocked it quiet. "I came to this world to take trophies. I came to prove my worth by conquering a new species. I thought it would be easy. I thought you were weak. I thought you were prey." He paused, looking out at the sea of human faces. "I was wrong, about all of it. Everything I believed about your kind was false. The reports I read, the information I gathered, none of it captured what you really are. None of it prepared me for what I found here." He looked at Kate, who stood watching him with that same calm expression she always wore. "From the moment I landed, I was not the hunter. I was the one being studied. I was the one being evaluated. I was allowed to live because you chose to let me live, not because I was any threat to you. You watched me walk through your town, heard my announcement, saw my weapons and my scars and my hunting spear. And you were not afraid, not once, not for a single moment." Fuller stood near the front of the crowd, his arms crossed over his chest. Tors was beside him, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Tony, the bartender, leaned against a pillar near the wall. Chris Baldwin sat in a wheelchair near the side door, his dying wife's hand clasped in his own. All the people had come to know over these past months, all the people who had shown him what humanity really meant. "You taught me something," continued. "Not by fighting me, not by threatening me. You taught me by simply being who you are. You showed me your history, your struggles, your victories, and your failures. You showed me your love and your loyalty and your absolute refusal to give up no matter what. You showed me that strength is not about claws or fangs or armor. It is about will. It is about heart. It is about choosing to stand up again every single time life knocks you down." He reached up and touched the trophy necklace around his neck. The teeth and bones and strange metals clicked together softly. "This necklace represents everything I was, every hunt, every kill, every life I took to prove my worth. I have worn it for over 200 years. It is the most valuable thing I own." His clawed fingers closed around the cord. "I would like to give it to your people, not as a surrender and not as a symbol of defeat. I give it as a gift. I give it because I want to become something new, something that my old people would not recognize, something better." He pulled the necklace over his head and held it out. Kate stepped forward and took it from his hands. She looked down at the strange collection of objects, these relics of 43 successful hunts, and then she looked up at him. "What will you do now?" she asked. Straightened to his full height. There was no menace in his posture anymore. There was only a strange kind of peace, something he had never felt before in his long life. I would like to stay here if you will have me. I would like to learn more about your people. I would like to understand how you became what you are and why the galaxy has never seen anything like you before. Perhaps one day I can go back to my own people and tell them what I have learned. Perhaps I can help them see humans the way I see you now. Not as prey, not as enemies, but as something remarkable, something worthy of respect. Kate looked back at the crowd. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence stretched on for what felt like a very long time. Then Chris Baldwin raised his free hand, the one that was not holding his wife, and he began to clap. Slowly at first, just a soft sound in the quiet hall, but others joined him. Fuller, Tors, Tony the bartender. One by one, then in groups, then all at once, 3,000 humans began to applaud. The sound washed over like a wave. He did not fully understand it. Among his people, approval was shown differently, through ritual gestures and formal words. But he understood enough. He understood that they were welcoming him, that they were accepting him as one of their own. Kate stepped closer and put her hand on his arm. "Welcome to New Haven," she said, raising her voice above the applause. "But I have to warn you about something." "What is that?" "Tonight is the community dinner and you are going to have to try the chili. Everyone does. It is a tradition." Remembered the capsaicin from his first week here. The burning. The conviction that he was dying. The way Kate had laughed at him while he gasped for water. "Is the chili dangerous?" he asked. Kate smiled that calm, knowing smile that he had come to know so well. "For most species, probably for humans, we call it comfort food." Looked out at the crowd of humans, still clapping, still smiling, still watching him with those warm and welcoming eyes. He thought about everything he had learned over these past months. He thought about persistence hunting and pack bonding and love and loyalty and the absolute refusal to give up. He thought about a species that had clawed its way to the stars through sheer stubborn will, that had survived everything the universe could throw at them, that had built communities like this one on the edges of known space simply because they could not imagine doing anything else. And he realized that whatever came next, however much the chili burned, however strange and confusing human customs might be, he would not have it any other way. "I am ready," he said. Kate laughed and led him toward the door. "No," she said, "you are not, but that is okay. Nobody ever really is. That is what makes it fun." They walked out together into the bright morning sun, and somewhere behind them, 3,000 humans began preparing for the biggest community dinner New Haven had ever seen. The end.